My parents started leaving me and my sisters home alone when I was about 14. Of course, the rule was not to let anyone in the house. One night there was a knock at the door. I went to it and tried to look out, but I couldn't see. We couldn't pretend we weren't there as the lights and the TV were on. I opened the front door a crack, thinking that the person would be behind the screen door, but that wasn't the case. There was this guy in maybe his late 20s or early 30s standing in the doorway. I shut the door quickly and told him to get behind the screen door, in which to he replied he wouldn't. I know this isn't smart of me, but I was young at the time, so I couldn't have known. I cracked the door for just a little so we could see each other. He then told me a story about his vehicle breaking down and his need to use a phone. I said I couldn't see a car and he indicated it was further down the road. I asked why he walked past the two houses right next door to one with no car in the driveway, and he became agitated. Here's a general recollection of the conversation. "Look, are you going to let me use a phone or not?" In which to I replied, "No, my dad is sleeping and I can't let you go in his room to use the phone." In which to he replied with, "Alright, bring the phone out here and I'll just use it here." And then I said, "I'm not letting you in the house." He then said, "Just bring the phone to the door." I then replied with, "It won't reach, please just leave." I then shut the door and locked it. While my sisters and I were talking about how scary that was, the side door handle jiggled. He knocked and said, "Will it reach here?" At this point, I told him to go to the neighbor's house and use their phone. He then started to yell, "I bet your dad's not here. Let me in. I want to talk to him." I said, "Fine, I'll go get him." I then went into my dad's room and got his shotgun. I came out, wrecked it, and said, "Here, meet my dad." The guy started cursing and calling me names, but he left, or at least that's what I thought. He had actually gone around to another door and tried that one. Our dog, which was outside at the time, began barking at him. He proceeded to do something that made the dog yelp and cry out. I then told him I was going to call the cops, and he finally left. I felt really stupid for the entire interaction. I don't know if he was just a guy who needed a phone, but the whole experience was just creepy. And I was obviously ill-prepared for dealing with it. This was a very traumatic experience for me, and honestly, it took me quite some therapy to get back on track. My family was on vacation and I stayed home so I could do my own things. Two friends and I had planned to meet up and bake pancakes, watch a movie, and just have a good time. We were having fun baking until the doorbell rang. My friend went to open the door and I followed because it was my house after all. It was a short guy in a dark blue sweater and gray sweatpants. He said he had a meeting with my dad. Now, I knew this wasn't right. My dad doesn't work with guys this age, let alone do they come to our house when my dad is on vacation. I told the guy he must have had the wrong address and that he should try the next street. This is where it starts to get creepy. He insisted I go with him to show the way. I refused, not wanting to go out in the dark with a stranger whom I already found suspicious. He insisted again and I told him no again and started to close the door. He stuck his foot between the door and stepped inside. He grabbed my middle and squeezed me and said, "Do you want to do something fun?" I don't know where the sudden bravery came from, but I managed to push him outside and close the door. I told my friend to lock it and I started shaking all over. I couldn't even cry. After I had somewhat calmed down, we called the police. They came by and that night I stayed at my other friend's house, spending the night in blind terror. After that I got scared of everything. I couldn't even open the door to someone or answer the phone or even go outside without being afraid. An arm around my middle, something that wasn't odd for friends to do, would now give me a panic attack. It's been over 2 years, but I still feel the panic whilst writing this. If you're listening to this, just take my story as an example and don't trust strangers. One evening, when I was in my junior year of high school, my mom and dad went out, leaving me home alone. I had a lot of homework to do, so I spent the whole evening sitting at the desk in my bedroom. My parents left the house around 6 p.m. While I was doing my homework, I put on my headphones and listened to loud music. There was a big storm that night, and my desk was facing the window, so I could see the rain and the lightning outside. My parents got back around 11 p.m., and when I saw the car drive up, I took off the headphones. As soon as my mom opened the front door and came inside, I heard her shout my name. "What on earth happened in here?" she demanded in an angry voice. Confused, I ran downstairs, and my mom was standing in the hallway with a furious look on her face, and she pointed at the floor and yelled, "Was this you?" "I have no idea how this got there. I spent the whole night at my desk doing my homework," I said. I watched as the look on her face changed from anger to confusion and then to fear. We both realized it at the same time. Someone else must have been in the house. We followed the trail of footprints, trying to make sense of the whole situation. They started at the back door, which we usually left unlocked. Then we noticed something else. The footprints started at the back door, but there was no trail of footprints leaving through the back door. All of a sudden, we heard a loud pounding noise that echoed throughout the whole house. Then the sound of the front door being wrenched open and slammed shut again. We all ran into the garage and locked the door behind us. My mom took out her phone and called the cops. After what seemed like hours, a patrol car arrived with 2 police officers, a male and a female. One officer stayed with us in the garage while his partner went through the house. When she came back, the female officer told us that there was no one in the house and it was safe to go back in. The officer then asked us to follow her, and as we walked through the house, we could see the trail of muddy footprints leading from the back door through the living room and all the way up to my room. It stopped at my doorway. The female officer then pointed at my door, and engraved on my door was,
"I can see you.